stand and say the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we move into our consensus agenda.
Okay, move we approve the expenses for last month. We have accounts payable vouchers in the amount of $579,592.33. We have 3 payrolls last month, and they total $702,443.31 with a little bit of void. Grand total expenditures for the month were $1,281,874.83. I also move that we approve the minutes from our last meeting.
Been moved by Steve, seconded by Ken. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion passes 4-0. Patrons' comments. This is your opportunity to ask questions.
So I promise I'm not here to complain, guys, I promise. In fact, I want to kind of do the opposite. I want to thank you guys for the work that you're doing in the community, to continue to provide a safe place for the kids and kind of being an anchor in the town here. I saw on the agenda you're going to be approving your emergency response plan tonight. There's certain stories that kind of pop up in the media, right? And I would say that the most recent was a school shooting that happened down in Georgia. It just kind of tugged on me a little bit and just kind of tugs on your emotions a little bit. The other one was kind of last year with the Uvalde school shooting. Hopefully, we maybe use it as a case study of how not to react in a situation. So as I got thinking about it, and just, with my kids, I've talked to them. I have zero concerns whatsoever about the internal plan that Triton has. My kids are well aware of the lockdown procedures. I know we got a school resource officer, but it's just kind of the more I thought about it, is like, I have no idea what my role as a parent is in that. I have no idea. I got thinking about it. The geography of Bourbon, we're really, I would say, best case scenario, probably 10 minutes away from the reliable police source. I'd say maybe worst case scenario, 20, 30 minutes. And just kind of from my previous life, I can tell you that those minutes are eternity when you're put in that situation. So it's kind of a long-winded to get to my question is, I'm just curious what that externally, amidst all the chaos, I understand you can't have a 100% plan. There's a lot of moving parts, but what does that communication look like? I know the kids don't have access to their cell phones. Just seeing the video clips on the news, it's just mass chaos on the school campus.
Yeah.
And it's kind of heartbreaking. And it's just a lot of confusion. I was just kind of curious, what does that look like from my perspective as a parent? If I were to arrive at the school in that situation, how do I link up with my kid? How do I communicate with my kid?
Yeah.
So that's kind of a question I just wanted to, throw out there just to help maybe put me at ease a little bit about some.
I appreciate the question, Jared. I'll be glad to answer that. And feel free to follow up questions if I don't answer a specific part of that. First of all, I will say, because of the cell phone legislation, that was something that parents asked a lot about. But I will tell you that a kid's cell phone has never been part of our emergency preparedness plan. Right? I know as a parent, speaking to you as a parent, sometimes we give those to them so if they're in danger, they can communicate with us. But a kid's cell phone has never been part of a school emergency preparedness plan. In the plan, which we don't advertise to everybody, right? Because we know that there's people out there that want to make, in Georgia, for example, the worst day we could ever possibly think about. But in the end, there are multiple places in there, essentially, that if we needed to relocate, that we've already communicated with, as far as where would we move our kids, and where would we do a reunification with those kids if our worst day happened. Very similar to the cards that you have, right? So the emergency preparedness cards, those would work on our systems. Our Raptor system has happened to be the ones we're looking at. We're actually looking at another system called Navigate 360 that we think is going to be more efficient. But in the end, that checkout process would be, hey, I'm dad, right? And I have emergency preparedness plan. Obviously, in our community, we're very fortunate that we know most people, right? But to say, I need to make sure that your son and your daughter are connected with you, and we would have a plan within those reunification sites to say, I know this is dad. We need to make sure those kids are safe, and this is where we're going to reunify those parents. In I guess the thing we would ask most of parents during that time, which is probably not the thing you're going to think about, is patience, right? Because we're going to tell you through a school messenger. So we have multiple ways we can do that, right? So school messenger, whether that's a phone call or an email, in that case, it's probably going to be a phone call, right? But we have every one of our staff members have what we call school guard, right? So you talk about response times. So essentially, on their phones, essentially they can communicate that we have some type of, let's just say, for the worst case scenario, an intruder. They can lock down from every one of our phones, okay? But if we have an intruder, they can push that button, and any law enforcement that's within a 15-mile radius will receive that on their cell phone to say, to your point, Uvalde, like, well, I'm not going in, right? We are headed straight there for whatever needs to happen. And unlike some of the Sandy Hooks and that type of thing, they don't have to wait. So they're going to go and they're going to make sure that they're taking care of the bad guy, essentially. I will tell you, within an emergency plan, there's information that's redacted, okay, to say that somebody that wants to come and do that it's not going to be a very good time for them, right? And so in the end, we've definitely put layers of those things in place specifically for your kid on the forefront of that, right? So those first few minutes. But you asked about a parent, and I would ask for a lot of patience, right? Because we're going to try to do everything we can to efficiently get your kid back in contact with you. And unfortunately, in the case of Georgia, right, there's going to have to be phone calls, or there's going to have to be identifications of things that are really, really hard, right? So all of those things go on simultaneously, and it is really, really difficult. Within our emergency preparedness plan, each building has an emergency team, right? And so some of those people may be greeters, right? They're going to greet you as soon as you go to that reunification site. Some of them may be the office staff that says we're going to be the check-in place. Some of those may be kind of the entertainment coordinator to keep the kids engaged and talking and kind of entertained while we're doing that process. So there's a lot of different layers, and I'd be more than happy to show you those examples of that document that our teachers have. But yeah, there's definitely layers to that. Maybe if I didn't answer one of your questions, ask.
No, I think it's really just a curiosity. You know, like I said, internally, I have no doubts whatsoever.
Sure.
I was just thinking of it from my perspective.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as I find out, I don't care where I'm at. I'm
Sure.
doing everything in my power to get to the campus.
Understand.
When I arrive at that campus,
Mm-hmm.
and also, the parents know what that. Hey, go to the football field. Go, just stay out of our way until we sort it. And is there communication? Fully understand you can't give the details because you're giving the tactics to the
Right.
kids.
Right.
But from a parent, I was just kind of
Yeah.
curious. Link up with the football field. Link up over here. Link up just.
So what we would ask parents is don't make a mad rush to the school, right? Because that's where the problem is, right? So a lot of that would be the communication that we're going to give to say your student is going to be at X location in 35 minutes. You know, please be patient as we work through making sure that we get all students linked with their parents. But for us, you can imagine everybody coming here, right? So we've had tests of that, of like a gas leak, right, across the street. And sometimes that reunification spot may be the other building, right, in that case, to make sure that stuff isn't coming through vents and that type of thing. But in the end, that would be communicated out. Never probably are we asking parents, hey, get on campus as soon as you possibly can, unless, of course, the message says that, to say, hey, we have a snowstorm coming at noon, like we need kids picked up, and we're going to get as many of them home as we can. But that's really not the scenario you're asking about. But so it is tricky, because you know what? Guess what? I have 3 kids in this building, right? And my dad heart is going to want to take care of them. But in the end, we have this conversation with our teachers. They kind of know that. But when we hire instructional assistants, they don't really think about that, or substitutes. Like my sister-in-law is like, man, I didn't think about the fact if I'm a substitute that day, like my 3 kids aren't the ones that I have to worry about the class that I'm taking care of. So sometimes you don't let your mind go there because that's really a really crappy place. But in the end, it's truth for our teachers to think of what's my responsibility that day, and your kid is one of those responsibilities for that teacher. And so, yeah, it's thick. What I would also say to parents, you did exactly what 99% of the parents do, including myself, of like, man, that happened, right? But I will tell you that's also our world, right? So every day we are trying to do things to say we're making adaptations to our campus, or we're adding an app, or we're doing stuff to our windows, right? To say we're going to try to put some of those barriers in front of that thing to happen. If we react to Georgia, or we react to all of those other things, then we weren't ready yesterday, right? And so it's heavy. It's heavy. I appreciate you asking that, and I would be more than happy to kind of walk through that so you can kind of see what that looks like. And that may prompt other questions, but.
My goal is not to analyze it.
No, that's a great question. It's a great question. It's a great question. Yeah. You'll totally forget the patience thing on that day, but but just remember that's our hope, is to say honestly, like, yeah, we have to be prepared for that bad day, and patience as far as like where we're going to be and how we're going to make that handoff is tricky, right? Because that includes our bus drivers, right? And there will be a lot of law enforcement on site that day, right, to direct and help guide. But yeah, tough stuff. So good question. I appreciate that.
Any other questions? Now's your time. We know there's lots of students here from the government class. No?
There's another change later.
Yeah, there's another chance at the end of the meeting. All right, moving on to our public hearing. The notice of the public hearing on collective bargaining topics pursuant to the Indiana Code 20-29-6-1A. Notice is hereby provided that the Board of Trustees of the Triton School Corporation and the Triton Teachers Association shall hold a public hearing in order to provide an opportunity to allow public testimony on items to be bargained under the teacher contract negotiations. That hearing is happening right now at 7 o'clock. So,
If there's anything I can add to that, obviously we'll be more than happy to answer public comment if there's questions, but on our end, the school corporation end, we just vow to bargain in good faith. Our planned meetings for that are October 1st and October 9th at this time. So we are allowed to start negotiations on September 15th, but you cannot actually have a formal agreement until after count day, which is October 1st, which is why we've chosen to kind of hang tight. Tom is meeting with the TTA on September 25th, I believe, to just look over the current state of the corporation when it comes to finances and available monies. So it just informs that bargaining. So it's not a shot in the dark, but it's more informed when it comes to what's actually available as to not go into deficit financing.
if there's no questions, comments, we'll close the public hearing and go on to the public hearing for the bus replacement plan.
Bus replacement plan for 2025 will be replacing one 66-passenger bus and one activity bus, 15-passenger. Money is built into the 2025 budget. If anybody's got any questions, we'll entertain your input.
Have we gotten the 2024 buses yet?
I believe so.
Okay. When do they expect, if we order these buses, that they'll come in?
Activity buses isn't as much of a delay, and there was a mix-up during the COVID and the huge delay, and so the bus we ordered last fall is actually going to be paid for with the 2025 budget, so it has been ordered, and we expect it early spring. It was like an 18-month process, but it worked out.
questions? No? All right, the 2025 capital projects plan.
Allow public input on projects and equipment that we'll purchase in the next 3 years. The plan consists of mainly routine maintenance as far as projects, replacing floor tile, sidewalk repair and installation, fencing just on a rotation basis, maintaining our parking lots, painting. Some of the bigger projects are in our capital projects plan, but we do not plan to pay for out of the capital, well, now it's called operations fund. We're building those into the bond. That includes auditorium railing, tennis court resurfacing, and probably the biggest one is we're beginning the process to look at the elementary roof replacement. Once again, all those will be budgeted into the bond proceeds. As far as the equipment, at this point, we don't plan on purchasing any equipment, and I think the threshold here is $10,000 if I remember correctly. Right now, we don't plan on purchasing anything over that threshold except buses in the next 3 years.
Any questions? All right, now we'll go on to the 2025 budget.
As far as the budget goes, I provided a spreadsheet for you guys, kind of a comparison of the last, I believe, 4 years. Very similar budget. The previous years, adjusted for personnel, new hires and people that have retired or resigned. Once again, we are selling a bond this fall, closing on it. The sale of the bond is actually Wednesday, September 11th. So we'll know more then, but budget has got cushion built in for that bond sale and cushion built in for the operations fund. When it's all said and done, our target tax rate for all funds is 84 cents, and that's comparable to 2022. The approved rate was 84.1. 2023, the approved rate was 84.32. We did have a dip due to debt service in 2024, and it did go down 76 cents, but expected to be right at that 84 cents again for 2025.
Any questions? All right, we will move on to personnel.
All right, I'd like to recommend the approval of Caleb Ochin as the JV boys basketball coach.
So moved.
Second?
Been moved by Steve, seconded by Wes. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion passes 4-0.
I'd like to recommend Brad Hargrave as the girls softball head coach.
I move we approve him as the softball coach. Brad?
Second.
Been moved by Ken, seconded by Steve. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion passes 4-0.
I'd like to recommend Kim Stetzel as the Spirit Club sponsor.
Moved.
Second that.
Been moved by Steve, seconded by Wes. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion passes 4-0.
The next three are all related, as talking about band here, so I'd like to recommend the approval of Karen Nelson as the marching band music instructor, Raquel Tuttle as the color guard instructor, and then approve the following volunteers: Betty Berkeypile, Angela Doss, David Doss, Jessica Strevey, Jennifer Bruner, Barbara Schwartz, Paul Harms, Anna Dameron, Christy Hooley, Mark Schwartz, Charles Lawrence, and Ralph Berkeypile.
I'll move we approve all those. Second.
All in favor? Motion passes 4-0.
I have one more. It's actually found at the bottom of classified, but it actually fits into the ECA, and that is there was a correction to Matt Arvison's ECA contract. We had just left one of the sports that he's coaching off of that, so that's just a correction from the previous, but we just want to make sure that that's all approved.
Second.
Been moved by Steve, seconded by Ken. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion passes 4-0.
I would recommend the approval of the resignation of Cheryl Hostetler as the corporation's speech and language pathologist. And that will move to a shared service with Argus. There was conversations of possibly doing that last year, so this sped up our timeline a little bit, but that is going to be covered. Much to the thanks of both of the speech paths at Argus have really helped us get through some of the things that weren't completed in preparation for case conferences that took place last week and this week. So appreciate Angela Brummett would be the other one, but Molly Henderson will be servicing Triton students. We're excited about that.
Second.
It's been moved by Steve, seconded by Wes. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion passes 4-0. On to classified.
All right, I approve the resignation of Sharon Stolbaum as the special needs bus aide and Michaela Odell as elementary instructional assistant.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Ken, seconded by Steve. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion passes 4-0.
So I'd like to next recommend the approval of Kathy Kuntz as the special needs bus instructional assistant. So that's a replacement of the one from above. And we are currently working on the replacement. Christine has multiple people in the queue right now to possibly take over the instructional assistant position, but we just haven't made that hire yet.
I move we approve that.
Second.
It's been moved by Steve, seconded by Wes. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion passes 4-0.
Recommend the approval of Kathy Engelmeyer as an activity bus driver for the vocational and ECA.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Ken, seconded by Wes. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion passes 4-0.
The next three, Trevor Hirschberger, Maisie Schaefer, and Casey Yarborough, I'd like to recommend the approval for being substitute teachers.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Steve, seconded by Wes. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion passes.
I'd like to make a recommendation for Tori Kistler as a school bus driver trainer. So training our school bus drivers when they are preparing for their assessment or their CDL or their skills training. She will do the upfront training of all of those.
She is one of our bus drivers?
Yes, absolutely. Yep. Paul Meredith had done that in the past, if you recall that, and just has kind of trained Tori how to do that. If you're aware, the CDL expectations for schools has backed off a little bit, so they don't have to name 90 portions of the bus. It's more like, I think, 35 or 40, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm going to say it's a little less cumbersome, a little easier to get your license now than it was there for a little while, but she has been an understudy to Paula. So
Move we approve Tori as a school bus driver trainer.
Second.
Been moved by Ken, seconded by Steve. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion passes 4-0.
And the last one, I recommend the approval of Robin Creekbaum as a cafeteria substitute worker.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved by Steve, seconded by Wes. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion passes 4-0. On to business.
All right. Recommend the approval to accept the 23-24 annual financial report, the junior senior high school financial report, and the Triton Elementary financial report. Once again, from 23-24.
Any notable things, Tom, and those that you should be aware of?
No, it's just a summary of the past school year, fiscal year, July 1 through June 30th. That's what the auditors will audit, is the annual financial report for the corporation. Just a side note, we did get a call. They're going to start their 22-23, 23-24 audit. Got an email requesting information today, so that'll go on this fall. So
Crow will be performing that again, just like they did last time.
State Board of Accounts outsourced it to Crow.
I move we approve those reports.
Second.
Moved by Steve, seconded by Ken. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion passes 4-0.
So the next two.
Do we need to approve, I mean, do we also need to accept?
Instead approve /
Yeah,
accept.
The report
He wrote approve
says
/
file one
accept.
copy with the administrative office and one copy with the board of trustees, and I don't know what file means, so. You guys approved it, so I'll consider it a file.
You have the
Approved
file
and accepted.
in your board packet.
All right.
The next two, we talked a little bit about already, just the 2025, so I recommend the approval of the resolution for the 2025 bus replacement plan. As Tom already mentioned, one big bus, one activity bus. That big bus is number 2, activity bus is number 6, and then the resolution for the 2025 capital projects fund plan.
Move we approve those 2 plans.
Okay.
I heard Steve and then Ken. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion passes 4-0.
One of the projects that we are doing within our bond is the making the fire suppression system on one control system. Right now, the TAC is on its own system, I believe. Correct, right, Nate? The TAC, and then the rest of the building is on another. And when you're doing a fire drill and all of that stuff, one plan's pretty one compartment is pretty fickle, and the other one works pretty well. But we're going to put all of those on one plan, combine those. Have a little bit of efficiency in the office too, so we have one box. So we recommend the approval or the proposal from Communications Company for the fire suppression system integration and upgrade.
We approve the proposal?
I'll second that.
Moved by Wes, seconded by Steve. Any discussion?
I'd like to ask if that's just the
High school.
just the high school?
Yeah, the elementary is on one system. Yep.
Any other questions or concerns? All in favor? Motion passes 4-0.
It is the same system as the elementary, same people that have done the elementary one, so one group that we're calling if one or the other acts up. I recommend the approval of the corporation emergency preparedness plan. There again, Jared, thank you for asking some of those questions. In that, I will say when it's scanned in black and white, it's a little tough to see, but if you have any questions on that as far as a board of similar to what Jared asked or any other nitty-gritty questions on that, I'd be more than happy to answer that. That is something that's updated every year, and that needs to be done, or we always do it in the October meeting. So. Excuse me, September meeting. We're in the September meeting. Thinking October 1st.
Accept the corporation, approve the corporation emergency preparedness plan.
Second?
Moved by Ken, seconded by Wes. Any other discussion?
I just want to thank those that were involved in creating that 95-page document, at least looking through the whole thing.
The building levels definitely have their own. That's a little bit more condensed, but the corporation one. The state is going through some overhauls too. We will be going through a state audit when it comes to safety as well. Because of legislation, they will, once again, kind of go through that. It's not a gotcha situation at all, but definitely helping you, making sure that you have those things in place for said questions and or just to make sure the most up-to-date research when it comes to how we should either react or be proactive.
All in favor? Motion passes 4-0. You're okay.
Last but not least, I recommend the approval of the annual review of the bus routes and students' transportation safety policy. Once again, that is a yearly request in September, making sure that we're leaving students off door side on state roads, just making sure that we're looking at all of those policies that are up to date as far as transportation is concerned. That's just your updated review.
I move we approve that. I also want to thank Laura for doing the work on that.
Second.
Moved by Steve, second by Ken. Any other discussion? All in favor? Motion passes 4-0. All right, superintendent report.
All right, continuous improvement. As you probably have seen, or if you haven't, a bunch of white trucks on the south side of campus today because they are removing the fence. So they made pretty quick work of that. today. That fence is removed in between the football field and Pansy Court, and that will be installed over the next few days. So they said they'd be here on the 9th and start, and they were here and got that done. So we had a conversation with them. We will have a couple gaps in the fence just simply for access for students walking to school, that type of thing. But we've already had that conversation with them. We talked a little bit about roof repairs, whether that's through rainy day fund or through our bond. We're getting more quotes on that, but likely next summer we will have a roof project going on at the elementary school in the first 2 sections, which happen to be the 2 wings of the, like the instructional areas, the 2 long wings of the elementary. Large high school parking lot's still kind of on hold, but I've mentioned that that's probably going to happen during fall break with a little less traffic, and as soon as they can get their equipment and people around to get that done. So still waiting on that. Sound system have been tested the last few weeks at the games, and I think that's much improved, so that's a really nice addition. This was tremendous and timely upgrade. They will be doing the same thing for the elementary system this year. When Sweetwater completed the upgrade in the trench, they said that nearly 70% of the speakers were blown, so which is probably why it sounded like a gargled mess when we were at basketball games. So yeah, that's an awesome improvement. Shared leadership, just pretty simple on that. We just continue to work through our strategic plan when it comes to encouraging student academic success, fostering social emotional growth, and investing in teachers and staff success. I do have just a quick blurb, I guess, just, I don't know, just something that was on my heart after this weekend and some of the information that's kind of thrown out there on social media. So I just kind of put some words together to just help us think maybe beyond our own situation, and I'll be glad to answer any questions on this of any parents or anybody that has questions beyond what I share. But we're very aware, so this is in the social responsibility and accountability columns, right? So we are very aware that we are accountable to our community, and we have a social responsibility to our community. So we ensure that we are good partners within our community. So we're very aware of the tremendous responsibility Triton School Corporation holds within our community and our stakeholders. We have said it before, and I will say it again, that we are here to try our best to help our kids be safe and do what they can to minimize inappropriate actions and words. I will, however, let you know that the posting harmful information about your school and your town on public forums does little to no good to being part of the solution. The information shared this weekend, which garnered support of those who had an axe to grind, was not true, was misleading, and it was about a 7-week lag, or 7 weeks behind the actions that were taken to resolve some of the concerns. I had a great conversation with a mother today who was very close to the personal situation that was mentioned in this week's post. She was hurt and appalled that someone she doesn't know and doesn't know her family or the situation had the audacity to post such a mischaracterization of what took place. We do not and will not report out on discipline measures that are handed down when poor choices are made. Therefore, it will be characterized that we don't do anything about it. We will respect them just like we would respect your child if the shoe was on the other foot. To post untruths in a public forum is often done without accountability, knowledge of the circumstance, and only seeks to hurt and get back at others. If you have a concern, I just want to remind, if you have a concern that you would like to share, to truly be part of the solution, I once again welcome you to speak with me or our building level leaders, giving details that can truly be used to make our student body safer. We welcome that. I have faith and confidence in our teaching staff and administrative staff to do everything they can to keep kids safe. They care about our students and have done little to gain a poor reputation due to overarching statements and hypothetical remarks. Can we catch every word that is said or every action that happens? No, we cannot. Are kids sometimes mean? Yes, but we do promise we will continue to improve and do everything we can to help provide a safe space for every student. Let's also remember that comments like that and or actions are a model to our students on how best to work through concerns and frustrations in life. So I felt like we're not wanting to have a lot of those conversations in the public square, nor do I want a few comments of some comments of a few people to drive what we do. But in the end, when those characterizations are made, I think we do and or people do deserve a response, to make sure that they know that we take that seriously and want to continue to make Triton School Corporation a safe space. So I would encourage, once again, you hear a lot of, well, they won't do anything, so I'm not going to go say anything. That's kind of the easy way out. And I would encourage, if you have questions or concerns, we truly do have a heart to serve our kids and keep them safe. So those are my words, not necessarily the board's words, but I just want to share that when those things are thrown out there, we don't take those lightly. High expectations. On a little bit more positive note, I want to congratulate our ECA teams and clubs this fall. Tennis, cross country, volleyball, and football are off to a great start. Our band is competing at a high level, and oftentimes, as our fall goes, so does the rest of our year go. So we have a lot of great kids who are accomplishing great things at Triton. I hope we will seek to recognize them for their hard work and dedication to the positive outcome. So just a lot of great things going on. Alignment, our first delayed start professional development day will be September 19th. That is next Thursday. So we will put more information out there just to remind everybody, but that'll be a 2-hour delay, a scheduled 2-hour delay while our staff is doing professional development. This is the time to connect with staff, provide timely training and professional development, and continue to do what we can do to meet the needs of our students. Evidence-based decision-making. Changes were made this year based on the end-of-the-year data to begin our reading interventions at the elementary school immediately, instead of waiting until all of the beginning of the year data was compiled. This has already proven beneficial to some bubble students as they made benchmark on the beginning of the year assessment, and we're hoping this instruction laid a solid foundation for them to have an extremely successful year. So I believe that's all I have at this time. I'd be more than happy to take any questions based on that information.
Report. Oh, sorry. Patrons' comments. Anyone have any questions? No? Now on to building reports.
Extra credit.
We can't promise that, actually, but we always insist that you may.
We know.
All right. At the elementary, we continue to get new students in here and there. Last week, we welcomed a couple new students. Tomorrow, we're going to start another new student, and it can be challenging at times for the child who's moving at the beginning of school year, perhaps, or after their classes are already established, and it can be difficult for the teacher too, but we welcome them and know that we have good students. There's always buddies there. They're thrilled to see who's coming, who's going to be in our class now, and the kids are really, really pretty welcoming, and I appreciate that in getting things started. We are glad to have Molly Henderson with us as our speech path. She's been here, was here 3 days last week, kind of getting started, finishing up some evaluations, and getting a schedule ready. So she's going to be communicating that as well, so we can start seeing our students again. We appreciate her, and as Mr. Riffle said, I talked to Angela Brummond as well today, and I feel like we're on a good track with them, and looking forward to a good rest of the year. We have been working really hard to get lots of data collected on our students to see where they are. As Mr. Riffle mentioned, we started interventions a little bit earlier. However, we now have, this week, we have a little bit of a break for our interventionists, and we're going to have our data analysis meetings to look at all that data on Wednesday and Thursday. And from that, we've been talking for some time and planning about how we can best serve students, which students, at what times of the day, with what materials to fill the gaps, how are we going to group them as well. So we're looking forward to that. We've sent out information to parents about how students scored on those assessments as well. We did our first and second grade dyslexia screening like we do every year. This year we did it a little bit earlier so that we can maybe catch some of those kids earlier, but we waited on kindergarten, and the reason we do is because there are a lot of kindergartners who come in just not having the instruction, and if we gave that right away immediately, that we would be identifying kids and needlessly concerning parents that maybe there was a problem when there's really not. They just haven't had time for that instruction. So we are still waiting till middle of year to do our kindergarten students in that dyslexia screen. We are this week holding our walkathon. We just started it today. It looks like fingers crossed, it's going to be a beautiful week for that. Again, just reminding students that to be fit, to have fun, a little friendly competition, school-wide, and I thank Mr. Long for his efforts in being out there all day. Usually he ends up with a really good tan at the end of the week, or maybe a little red in the face as well. And it looks like this week could be one of those. So I already heard somebody say going out the door today, she acted like it was my fault. She goes, I'm exhausted today. And I said, why are you? She goes, I'm so sore. And I said, why? And she goes, the walkathon. And I said, oh, yes. And she said, I said, how many laps did you do? And she goes, I can't tell you. Because then if I do, everybody will be trying to beat that. So already on a Monday, we've got the competitions going is hot in some of those classrooms. And so they want to be the one with the most laps. So I appreciate the energy and the fun that brings as well. And if we bring in some money for funds as well to improve our school, so much the better. We also had our vision screening today that is required from a state and grades first, third, and fifth grades did it today at the elementary. Let's see. Next Monday, then, our new STARS groups, our intervention groups, will be starting. And coming up, we also have our 6th grade Olympics, which are making a resurgence this year that we haven't had for many years. And we're going to be doing that on September 20th. And then, of course, Triton Gives Back happens on 2024. And sometime in October, the PTO just set the date just tonight, October 24th, they're going to bring back Haunted Hallways, which should be fun for everybody. That was something that they did last year for the first time that was well attended and seemed like a lot of fun for kids, a safe way to trick-or-treat regardless of the weather. So I think that's about it right now.
Okay, update for the junior senior high school. Just to start off, we've started teacher observations, so we've had the opportunity to get in classrooms and just see some of the great things our teachers are doing. And I know Mr. Riffle said it, but I think we have an amazing teaching staff, and I'm actually really impressed with our new teachers that we have on staff this year, so they're doing a good job. Data analysis, we met last week with our math and our language arts teachers, again, just to talk about some of that beginning of the year data and just interventions we can put in place to help our kids show the growth that we want them to show throughout the year. Homecoming this past week, also had a PEP session on Friday, tried to have some fun dress-up days or theme days. Wish some other students would have taken advantage of those maybe. You guys didn't take advantage of Floaty Day? No? Okay. Just want to thank Lions Club. They helped us with our vision screenings. I know Mrs. Cook talked about that. So our 8th graders had their screenings done today. So again, thanks to the Lions Club. On the 16th, we start our first iLearn checkpoint. So the state, not to get into a big discussion, but iLearn is going to look a little different starting next year, but this year we had the opportunity to join into a pilot. So instead of one just big test at the end of the year, we're moving to 3 smaller checkpoints and then the final test. So we've opted to go into that pilot. So on the 16th, our students are going to start that first checkpoint, and we'll see how they're doing. Delayed start on the 19th, as Mr. Riffle talked about. I know in our building we're going to have some conversations about the changes with the diploma at the state level. We're going to talk about the new hall passing program and what we can do to improve that process, and then just some of the changes that we've made to our teacher evaluation rubric. So there may be some other things thrown in there as well. Just a little update on cell phones. Just want to thank our students. I know that was a big change and not a popular change for our students, but I think they've handled that well. So I just appreciate their approach. They could have been angry, and maybe they are, and they just haven't shown it, but I appreciate their positive approach to the school year, so thanks to them. Same with the hall passing program that we're using. Again, neither of these were to punish or to take things away. It was more about to preserve our instructional time in the classroom. So again, students can still use the restroom. They can still go to the nurse. They can still do the things they need to do. We're just trying to make sure that there's a little more thought that goes into when I do those things, and again, trying to preserve that instructional time. And I think that program has been implemented, and it's been doing well. Just some upcoming events. Tomorrow we have a scholarship donor breakfast. Just those individuals that have scholarships for our students, we're trying to get together with them as we've made some changes to that program. And one is just to kind of maybe hear the story behind their scholarship and why they continue to give that scholarship. And then also just talk about some of the changes that maybe have been made through the United Way and make sure everybody's on the same page with that. We have Student Picture Day this Friday. We have a Senior Audit Day coming up on the 16th. And then we have Junior Audit Day on the 17th and 18th. So, any questions? All right, thank you very much.
Adjourn at 7:45.